Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, taking a look at another interesting Week 3 matchup as you have the ACC Louisville Cardinals and the Indiana Hoosiers from the Big Ten squaring off at Lucas Oil Stadium. And I want to start out with this. This is an Indiana team that, if you guys listened to me in the summer, was not very high on this program heading into 2023. That being said, after taking a look and watching that Ohio State back, watching the Indiana State game back, this defense is going to help Indiana win some games or at least be a lot more competitive than I thought in some of these games in the Big Ten. Now, the offense still needs to figure some stuff out. We'll get into that. But credit Tom Allen, because this defense is really, really good. You take a look at some of their numbers, 51% completion percentage, 3.4 yards per carry given up. Really dominant group. And the Louisville Cardinals, again, Louisville fans, we've been talking a lot about this program, high on this program heading into the year. It seems like this offense finally starting to hit its stride. Murray State was a nice game for them to get a lot of confidence. And, we kind of talked about it. This Louisville team, a ton of new faces, a new offensive scheme, might take a few weeks to kind of hit its stride. We might be seeing that. I'm kind of interested to see this Louisville offense match up against an Indiana defense that really, really is good. Now, before we get into the matchups, kind of some key players that I'm keeping an eye on and the pick, just want to say, thank you to you guys. The support that you guys have shown for all these game previews, it truly does mean a lot. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, can't thank you guys enough for all the support. And more importantly, let me know in the comment section what you guys are thinking. The best part about doing this, learning from you guys, talking ball with you guys in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get into this. And I want to start with this Louisville offense going up against an Indiana defense that has been really good. I mean, holding Ohio State to 23 points. Watch that game back. I mean, you had a lot of Ohio State fans melting down on Twitter because they think their offense stinks. I think this Indiana defense just elite. Fast forward another week, Indiana State, only 94 yards of total offense given up. And I get it's Indiana State, but anytime you hold a college football team to under 100 yards of total offense, very, very impressive. A guy like Andre Smith coming over from Western Michigan, one of the more touted guys in the transfer portal, has been dominant up front for Indiana. And this group as a whole playing really, really well. Now, this Louisville offense, again, I think is starting to hit its stride. And we said you might see some growing pains, and you even saw some growing pains. They still put up, 39 points against Georgia Tech, but you saw some growing pains in certain periods of that game against Murray State, kind of starting to put it together. Jack Plummer, very solid. What I'm kind of looking at, and this is what we talked about all offseason, is this is the most talented wide receiver room Jeff Brohm has ever had to work with. He didn't have these kind of wide receivers at Purdue, and you're starting to see these guys hit their stride. Jamari Thrash, breakout performance. I think Kevin Coleman, probably the most talented wide receiver in this group. Chris Bell, very good. Amari Huggins, Bruce, Jimmy Callaway. So many different ways that Louisville can hurt you through the air. And Jeff Brohm, not many better guys at scheming guys open, finding wide receivers and letting them run free than him. But what I want to focus a little bit more on, and this is something that we talked about, but kind of gets overlooked when you talk about this Louisville team because of all the new faces coming in the transfer portal. You have the Jeff Brohm offense. This offensive line is very, very good. And they're running the football at such a high level. I mean, 7.3 yards per carry through the first two games. Jawar Jordan averaging 16.5 yards per carry. It seems like every time this guy touches the ball, he's hitting a big run. Really, really good backfield behind a good offensive line. Don't get me wrong. Jack Plummer and Jeff Brohm, they want to push the ball down the field. They want to be aggressive through the air, but having a run game to supplement what they want to do through the air really makes this Louisville offense dangerous. And I'm kind of interested to see if they can run the football on an Indiana front seven that's probably the best front seven that you have seen to this day, right? Georgia Tech's solid. I think Indiana a little bit better. Kind of interested to see if this Louisville offense and offensive line can continue to dominate up front and kind of spur on this running game. Now, on the flip side, this is where you get concerned if you're an Indiana fan. On the offensive side of the ball for Indiana, it seems like it's the Jalen Lucas show. And you watch the game, and the only way they can hit an explosive player or kind of want to put points on the board is we're going to give it to Jalen Lucas and let him do it. Now, Jalen Lucas, as a Michigan fan, he hurt us last year. He is so electric. And I don't blame Tom Allen about getting him the football as many ways and as many different ways as you can. But it seems like it's him or bust. And if it's not Jalen Lucas touching the ball, the success rate for this Indiana offense, not really good. Now, there's some things to be optimistic about, right? Taven Jackson, He's a young quarterback. He's a transfer quarterback from Tennessee. I think it's like his job now, which I think is really good for the mental of the quarterback. I think he's talented. That being said, you got to keep him protected. You got to be able to consistently give him a run game. And the weapons on the outside, I mean, Cam Camper, solid outside of that. Like, I don't think you love the skill around this Indiana offense. And again, it seems like when you watch these Indiana games on the offensive side of the ball, it kind of just lacks an identity. Their identity is Jalen Lucas. And so a little bit concerned about that. I think there are things that you could see getting better throughout the year, but at the end of the day, this Indiana team is going to be in a lot more games than I thought they would be because of how good this defense is. I don't think a bowl game is completely out of the question for Indiana. And I get the Big Ten schedule is brutal, but if this defense can keep you in some games, which I think they certainly can, it's kind of like the Indiana or Iowa of last year, where it's like this defense is going to keep you in there. Can you find some explosive plays? Can this offense take some strides throughout the year? If they do, I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten, but I think they'll be a lot more competitive than I certainly thought. And I think a lot of the national media thought heading into the year. Now, Louisville on defense, this Louisville defense, and this is something we talked about a lot, it was elite last year. It was like one of the best defenses in the country. Nobody really talked about it because a lot of other talking points around Louisville, obviously replacing the head coach. Malik Cunningham is one of the more exciting players in college football. Defense was awesome. You lose a lot of those guys. That being said, I still like the bones of this defense. Are they going to be as good as we saw last year? Probably not. But guys like Ashton Gelati continuing to create havoc in the backfield. You're seeing some turnovers forced. And that's where Louisville lived last year. I mean, they were the number one team in sacks, really, really good havoc rate. You're seeing the same bones of that. And again, a lot of transfers on that side of the ball. I think it continues to get better as the season goes on. Now, getting into the pick, and this has a lot more of me liking Louisville than me being out on Indiana. And before I kind of dug into this Indiana team, I was like, yeah, I'm probably going leaning Louisville covering the points just because I don't think this Indiana team is that good. Now, it kind of turns out I like this Louisville team a lot. I think their offense has taken some strides. And I think this Indiana team, a lot more solid than I expected, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But what it comes down to is you take a look at these offenses and you say, which offense do I trust to just put more points on the board consistently? It has to be this Louisville offense. This Indiana offense, I think, can get better, but I don't think it's quite there yet. So I'm taking Louisville 10.5. I liked it a lot more when it was at 9.5 when it opened. 10.5. I'm still leaning Louisville. I think they're the more talented team. I think they're a team that's a little bit farther along in that development cycle. Again, I like this Indiana team. I just don't know if I'm trusting them to put up enough points to hang with this Louisville offense that I really do think is hitting its stride. Again, would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section. If you do enjoy the content, again, consider subscribing to the channel. The support means a lot to the boys, and we'll talk to y'all later.